regular season episode of the Hold the Line Sports Betting Podcast for the 2024 season. Some pause for dramatic effect there. Rivalry week, fellas. A word I had a lot of trouble with as a youth in elementary school, thinking back to my rivalry with a fellow student, Mary Ashley Tucker, who annually would beat me in academic award ceremonies, as well as the Young Authors Fair, where her nonfiction report on Franklin Delano Roosevelt trumped my science fiction epic about an alien invasion. Who writes nonfiction for fun? No one.
It's unfortunate.
And then I think about how our rivalry brewed and what it became, and I look at where she's at now and where I'm at now. She's a successful news anchor and an even more successful life coach. You can look her up on LinkedIn. While I am unemployed with a podcast that I host, ranging from anywhere from 3 to 5 listeners at any given time. And I've got to ask you guys, who's laughing now? Who won this rivalry?
Us.
Anyways, you'll notice we're down a bandit for the second time this season, as Nate is still in Italy. Sucks he isn't here. I would love to ask him about the Alabama-Oklahoma game. I would love to get his insight on
Sure.
that.
First
But
off,
before,
I
go
just want
ahead.
to say, Nate, right now, for you guys who don't talk to Nate every day like us, Nate he's in definitely in that stage of denial where his team has lost, and there is
Yeah,
very, very little hope for his team to make a playoff run or anything, in the postseason era of college football. And he is very much on the I just don't really care. I
yeah.
knew
He
that
says
this
it's
was gonna happen this season, that kind of vibe. And deep down inside, he's extremely hurt. It's a good thing he's in Italy because I know if it were me, I would be losing my mind. I would not have as much passion as I still do for this season.
yeah, a diehard Alabama fan who was like, he literally was like, if they win 8 games or 9 games, like it's okay. I kind of suck. And I'm like, you're not an Alabama fan. No
No,
Alabama fan has ever said that before.
You can't lose
never.
your hope if you never had it.
Yeah, yeah, it's fair enough.
Fair.
Um, but
We've exceeded expectations.
let's press on. Um, we'll recap the week that was week 13. Brandon, we're gonna go over the games of the week first, if you don't mind.
Yes, and what a week it was, gentlemen. We had ups, downs, we had upsets. Now we go into rivalry week.
Exactly, exactly. For the
And I
first
just want to
19
say,
years of my life, I couldn't say it.
I just want to say that from a betting perspective this week, very, very tough. I'm sure there was a lot of big losers out there,
Yeah,
but with all the upset, that also leaves room for some big winners. So we're going to start it off. I think all of us might have won on this. I can't remember. I know me, I think Will and Nate at least. I think Cam, you might have had the other one. But we took Notre Dame versus Army.
I did
I
not.
think I know I had Notre Dame minus 14 and a half. Notre Dame comes out with a big victory over an undefeated Army team who some thought may be able to compete with the big boys, that they were undefeated. They're a well-coached team. They're still a good football team, but there's levels to this NCAA Division One college football. 49-14 is a big jump for any stretch of the imagination, any team across the country. I think Notre Dame finally deserves the respect that they have earned. I know they have that bad loss against who Northern Illinois was it, but
Correct.
Yeah.
16 to
nonetheless,
14.
ever since that game, they have been rolling. So I won money there. I know most of us won money there. That one to me wasn't a hard pick because if you lost money on that game, if you said Notre Dame minus 14 and a half and it didn't hit, it's almost like, okay, wow, well, Army's pretty good. That's pretty cool for college football. So win-win for the game to see and watch every Saturday, and win for us that took Notre Dame minus 14 and a half handling business. Now we jump over to some Big 12 matchup, probably the most important game of the Big 12 this far, looking back throughout the season and how it's unfolded. BYU at Arizona State. Arizona State was a 3-point favorite. Over under was 48. The result of that game was an Arizona State W, 28-23. Good teams win, great teams cover, and Arizona covered the spread. Won me money as well. Very proud of the Devils over there. I think BYU's fraudulent. I have for a while. I know they had big wins against Kansas State, which now, after the season unfolded, Kansas State, not that good. But top two teams in the Big 12 played each other. We might get a rematch here in a few weeks as well. So
Yep.
that'll be very interesting.
Crazy ending from that game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit, and I
Yeah.
want to get y'all's thoughts on that because that was insanity.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the Big 12. There's a lot of insanity going on all year in the Big 12. It's a wild, wild west over there. And it's been fun. I mean, do I think, being the SEC expert, do I think any of these Big 12 teams can compete with the big boys? Probably not. But it's still good football, and you know what happens. I mean, in playoff
It's
time, anything
fun
can happen.
football.
So
Yeah.
it's fun to watch. That's right. Now for the biggest matchup of last weekend, going into the weekend, I would say there was a plethora of games that really, really turned college football upside down on its head that we'll get to. But this was the biggest matchup going into the week. Indiana at Ohio State. Will, I know me and you have been on the Indiana bandwagon a little bit. We like to see the underdogs start
I still
prevailing.
am.
We like to see the smaller teams who haven't been anything compete with the big boys. But I think this loss was a bad loss for Indiana, as Ohio State takes the W 38-15. Now, I just said good teams win, great teams cover. Indiana did neither of those things. Ohio State looked dominant. I think after that Oregon loss they had earlier in the season, it's been nothing but head down. We are out here to prove a point. And upsetting for Indiana because their strength of schedule is very weak. And for them to get pretty much blown out of the water throughout this game, it's just, where do you put them now? What do we do now? So
They're still in with all that happened.
Which I think we should
I,
also talk about.
we will definitely get to all that. But I mean, this game had to have been closer, man. I mean, 38-15 of all the hype that we've had from Indiana.
Indiana's left tackle needs to reconsider his sport choice. He was getting absolutely ran through the entire game, and that's what, like, the offense couldn't do anything because Curtis Rourke was getting hit 2 seconds into the play.
It's the best pass rush they faced this whole season by far.
Yep.
Which, I mean, it was literally only the left tackle.
Yeah.
Whoever Ohio State's right end is either the best in the country or Indiana's left tackle is the worst in the country.
And I will say, I think it was a proven point this weekend that just in college football alone, the hardest thing to do is win on the road.
Oh yeah.
It's
I mean, we
tough.
saw that in the SEC. Indiana, they've won a bunch of road games, but now they finally faced a big top 25 opponent, top 10 opponent, top 5 opponent on the road. It's a tough thing to do, to go into another place that you're not comfortable in. You know, crowd is definitely a factor when it comes to those games, and we saw it in many of the games we watched this weekend.
So let's dive a little deeper into. We'll go Army and Notre Dame first. Just to preface this, Nate went 3-0 on the games of the week. Just so you guys
Screw
are
off.
are aware, he picked the Arizona State cover. He had Army Notre Dame over. He had um, Indiana Ohio State over, which I'll get into that one because that I went under 52 and he went over 52 and a half, and they scored 53 points in the game. So that
Yeah,
was
it's tough.
nonsense. But
That
yeah,
hurt.
Army and Notre Dame first. Either of you guys have some thoughts immediately on this?
I mean, Riley Leonard is that guy. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I just think they're an explosive team, and they're just. I mean, it's hard to gauge because we want to say Army's a good football team because they're undefeated, but I think we're going to get more so of a true test of Notre Dame this week, again, late in the season. But, I mean, Riley Leonard's him. I think the defense is pretty good. They fly around the football team. They're well coached. And Army's a well coached football team, too. I don't think they really give up many things to their opponents, you know? So I think for Notre Dame to blow them out of the water, just do whatever they want with the football and get stops, pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's not even like Army didn't even really make that many mistakes. One turnover, I believe. I think they had one turnover, but I mean they just far and away Notre Dame just had their way. Whatever they wanted to do offensively, there wasn't anything Army could really do to stop. And I think Notre Dame kind of already had like a blueprint for how to win games like these. They played Navy, and I mean obviously the outcomes are very similar, and I'll question it a little bit. I'd have my doubts, but like you got to think having played Navy and executing that, as well as they did, probably set them up. Because I think Army is more talented than Navy, but I
Oh,
think they were able to beat them as badly as they beat Navy because they've seen it before. There were no surprises. There were no like extra wrinkles that they could really do. Like they knew what kind of game they were going to play and they'd seen it before. And I think they just Notre Dame, aside from their one loss, all they do is execute and play mistake-free football. They're not overly explosive. They've got a great running back. Love, he's
Yeah.
he's nasty. Riley
my
Leonard,
love.
Riley Leonard is getting better every week. We keep seeing it. He's good. The defense is fearsome. Like I uh I just think they play mistake-free football. That and their coach is like the most intense individual I've ever seen in my life. I watch him on TV and I get a little intimidated. So I can't imagine how the teams on the other sideline feel.
First off, shout out. We appreciate the analysis, love. Um, and I think it's kind of indicative of what Group of Five versus Power Five games are. Look at
Almost
me
without
using
fail.
look at me using a big word, indicative. Um,
Good. It's really good.
we just always see every upset of a big team from like a smaller school is always it's 95% of the time it's high scoring because the Power Five teams all offense is good, but the defense maybe not so good. We rarely see a group of four defense shut down a Power Four offense. Period.
Yeah.
Like Northern Illinois did it this year, but other than that, when have we seen it? So that's why I think you have to have a complex and good offense as a group of four team to compete with those big schools or have a generational player like Boise State, something like that. Um,
Yeah. An equalizer.
yeah, like you will not stop the group of four offense or the power four offense.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to score on that power four defense.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on I mean they kind of just did what
They
I
dominated.
I bet off hope, that like they would just be I wanted it to be competitive and it just wasn't. They weren't up to snuff. But
Notre
like
Dame just doesn't like the troops.
no, no respect. No respect.
Touchdown, Jesus, don't care.
No. But I do, Brandon, I do agree with you. I think they have a better test this coming weekend. A little bit of a slept on test.
Yep.
Maybe we'll talk about that one a little bit later. Once we get into like a playoff predictor, I would love to talk about that.
Perfect.
Let's go BYU at Arizona State. Man, did y'all watch first of all?
I watched the end.
I mean, everyone watched the end, I bet.
Yeah.
So, aside from this, like, I think Arizona State was flat out the better team. I think they were the better team the entire time.
They were up big at
Especially,
one point, weren't they? It was like
yeah,
21-6 or something like that.
first half they were having their way with them.
Yeah.
They and Arizona State kind of does this a little bit where they get off to like really fast starts, and then they did it with Kansas State when they played them. Really fast start. Did it with BYU here, and they kind of let off the gas a little bit and let them kind of climb back into the game, which for excitement's sake, I guess is a cool thing because it ended up being one of the wildest finishes I've ever seen. Before I get into that, Cam Scatabo, another 3 touchdowns, and is absolutely that offense is absolutely peaking at the right time. They go
They're
through
making the
him for
playoff.
they go through him for sure, and as long as he's running well, it sets up the pass game extremely well. They're very tough to stop. But yeah, this last 20 something second minute, whatever it is, this last minute of the game, whatever it was, they're
Second.
I mean, okay, they're up by 5. They are on BYU's like 3, 4. I mean, they're at the goal line. And the first play is a they do this twice in a row where the quarterback just runs backwards for no less than 20 yards. Just runs backwards and then tries to take off as much of the clock as possible. It was like a minute and 30, I think. So like, and they didn't have any timeouts, so he's just trying to run the clock out. Runs backwards a mile, downs it. It's like 40 something seconds or whatever, 50 something seconds. Does it again, or maybe it's like 30 seconds. Does it again. They get down to like 7 seconds in the game. And now the quarterback is, if you had the quarterback's rushing total for on prize picks or anything, I'm sorry, because he got
Yeah.
negative 97 yards without a doubt. The last play, there's 7 seconds left. This is like the end of their drive. It's like 4th down. And the idea here is this dude's just going to launch the ball as high up in the air as possible and hope it hits the ground after the clock hits 0. And it doesn't, but the fans think it does. So the
Yeah.
fans storm the field. It takes, I think they said it takes 13 minutes. Everyone storms the field. They're all celebrating. The coach is freaking out because he thought the game was over. The quarterback's freaking out. He thought the game was over. They get to the point where after it was, I think they said it was like 13 minutes. They get to the point where they move everyone off the end zone and the people just make a U around around the sidelines because no one can get back up into the stands. So the whole stadium is on the field, just like a little bit out of play. And so BYU gets the ball back and they, throw a Hail Mary or whatever, and it's incomplete. And then the fans rush the field all over again. But I'm like, you guys are up by 5, and there's this little time. They are literally on the opposing 4. In what world are we not just like running that thing in for a touchdown
Yeah.
Right.
and saying now we're up by 12 with a minute to go? You cannot beat us now. You have no timeouts.
Or at least knee it out and go up by 8.
Yeah,
Basically a touch.
take a field goal, and they got to
Yeah.
drive the length of the field and score a touchdown and 2-point conversion with no timeouts and a minute left on the clock. The decision to, I've never seen it before, and I hope I never see it again because it was one of the most baffling offensive experiences I've ever seen in my life. I don't know, Will, do you think it was like, was there merit to this strategy, or I don't know?
I mean, there's something to do with like running the clock out, like you see it, like, but not in that, like, what's not to that extreme. Like you'll see like someone like you're taking a knee, but you'll go back 5 yards first, wait until someone's there, then take the knee. Not run 20 yards backwards and then fall down twice and
Yeah.
then run another play and just throw it up. Like the coaching almost lost in the game.
They
It was
started on the opposing 4. Their drive ended on like the 47.
yeah, it was very bad.
Yeah, that has to be some kind of like analytical guy in the box that was like,
Yeah.
this is the time for it, and they probably haven't practiced it a lot.
Yeah. You need this
And it
many
just
seconds to come off before you hit
yeah,
the ground, before you take a knee or whatever. And then theoretically, you get down to 6 seconds and you throw this
yeah.
ball as high as you can. It should hit the ground with 0, and they never get a chance.
I could definitely see some guy in the press box being like, "Coach, this is the time that we do the thing," and then he's like, "Okay, team, do the thing," and they're like, okay, sure."
Whoever guy is, I want him to be fired
Right.
because that was awful. Other than that, though, I mean, it was great entertainment. I was about to go get dinner,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, "Well, I have to see this through now."
Yeah, I forgot also too. They mentioned it in the chat. I don't know why I didn't correct you when you said it, but BYU caught the Hail Mary.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were
It
only
was
a few
a
yards
Oh
away.
yeah, that's right. They did catch the ball. It was like, yeah, they were just short of the goal line.
It's
So if
crazy.
if Levitz runs like 5 more yards backwards, they probably catch it in the end zone and lose the
And
game.
I watched the guy catch the Hail Mary. By the time the ball was in his hands and he was on the ground, there was already like a student with a phone in his face, like
Yeah,
on the field. Like it
Did
was
y'all
just like,
see
holy crap.
someone tried to I can't remember if it was this game or not, but someone tried to take a helmet and
Oh yes, I
then
did see that.
the equipment manager literally chases him down and tackles him.
oh my
Like
god.
50 yards. He ran
Yes.
like 50 yards, like sprint.
Like a
Tackled
And
the
like a
dude.
student.
yeah,
Yeah,
Like
like
yeah, like a
somebody
student.
stole a helmet out of like the bin.
Yeah.
I think so I was watching another podcast, and they're talking about kind of like the rushing of the field and how it's like, one, it's losing its like allure because like everyone's freaking doing it now. Like
Yeah.
Oklahoma
Right.
did it to, because they got bowl eligibility, and it's like, okay, did
I mean,
you
like
you got bowl eligibility the last 6 years and you never
right.
stormed the field for that.
We're
Um,
Georgia fans, and Ole Miss was ranked top 15,
yeah,
beat a top 10 team,
storm the
and they
field.
still rushed the
It's
field.
like
Like,
it's a great win, but like, so
yeah,
it's like
it was
that. It's like, teams get fined. The organizations get fined, and it's a health risk. Like there's an injury
right.
risk. Like you don't know who's gonna run out there. You can't control. What if one of them's like the opposing, an opposing fan, and he's pissed, because his team just lost. Like,
I think the only way the crowd should be able to rush the field is if it's like a championship game atmosphere, or if like the spread is like 28 plus.
I think
Like
the
you're that much
Vandy,
of an
I think the
underdog.
Vandy win was warranted,
Yeah.
It needs
even
to
though
be a
that's a
program changing win.
That's like
Oh
the
yeah.
first time they've beaten a top whatever team in 60 something years. That warrants a rushing
Yeah.
onto the field. Like something that hasn't happened in 6 decades, you got it. But if you did it like last year, like if you were in a bowl game last year and you just made yourself eligible for one this year, don't rush the field.
I
I
You
think
had
mean,
there's
a
only been
you had a
Arizona
disappointing
State
season.
Arizona State's predicted to be in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
And they
I
there's
rushed
don't
the
know.
only
field.
been 3 games that have warranted a field rush. There was the Vandy game, obviously Vandy beating Bama. This
Yeah,
game was technically at Notre Dame, but if Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame at Northern Illinois, that would warrant it.
sure,
Yep.
sure.
And I'm maybe a little homer here, but KSU getting their first
Yep.
First win
FBS
in
win
program history in
against
FBS.
against an undefeated Liberty team,
You can
then
rush the
yeah,
field.
you can rush
You
the
can
field.
rush the field because you'll
I would
probably
say
never get the opportunity again.
No,
honorable mention Tennessee beating Bama because that's more so of like traditional thing. Every time they beat Bama
Well,
at home, there's
they
the
just do
cigars.
that.
yeah,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
take the goalpost, they throw it in a river.
Yeah, that's fine. They do that anyways. If it's like, yeah, if it's part of history, then
yeah, that
sure.
Yeah.
doesn't count. That's tradition.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, crazy game. I think we all won money on that one. I'm pretty sure we were all in lockstep with the Arizona
Yep.
State cover.
I didn't. I
No,
went
what?
BYU money
Oh
line.
yeah, you did go BYU. You were probably hoping for that Hail Mary to go 3 yards further.
I mean, they should have.
All right, let's go last game. We'll do the marquee matchup, Indiana at Ohio State. Will, go ahead and start us off. What are your thoughts here?
First off, the left tackle from Indiana needs to be banned from football forever.
Yeah, I've heard that somewhere.
Don't touch a football field ever again. Like it Indiana competed for the first, maybe not in the first full entire first half, but probably for the first quarter and a half.
Yeah, when they scored the
And
first touchdown.
that's when the left tackle was actually playing decent. And then after that, Curtis Rourke had no time to throw the ball. He was snapping the ball, and a guy was already in his lap. It was bad. And then, like, the run game, shockingly, was actually somewhat decent. Like, there were, and it wasn't because of the O line getting good push though. that running back was bouncing so many plays outside when it was getting blown up. And yeah, I mean, like basically Ohio State won in the trenches. I legitimately think Ohio State right now they're my favorite. I think it's close between them and Oregon for me. Um, Technically, like quarterback play, you could agree with Dylan Gabriel is better than Will Howard, but Ohio
I
State's defense,
consistency, yes,
yeah, Ohio
consistency, yes.
State's defense is better than Oregon. So it really just depends on what your preference is. I mean, mine, the 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 favorite for me flips every week, and they might see each other 3 times this year, so we never
True,
really know.
true.
Um, but yeah, Indiana basically got bullied in the trenches. They're still a top 12 team. They will be in the playoff. Don't care that they got blown out by 23. They will be there. Strict. I mean, with everything that happened in the SEC, they went from potentially 5 to 6 teams getting into now max 4, probably 3.
So I think for me, what sticks out, and props to Ohio State. I want to start with the winner. They executed their game plan perfectly. They did exactly what they wanted to do on the football field, and that's what the best teams do. Um, been watching Indiana, and the hype's been growing, and people are getting higher and higher on them. They've been successful in all of these games because they've kind of dictated the pace and established the tempo that they wanted to play at. You hadn't seen them have to, I don't want to say play from behind, but play in a game where they didn't establish that tempo. And what you saw was Ohio State establish the tempo they wanted to play at, and Indiana become extremely undisciplined, making uncharacteristic mistakes, which tells me they aren't quite ready for this kind of competition yet. It'll help. It helps that they've seen it, so now they kind of know what it's like. The best teams are the ones that are able to win. They can win ugly. They can win playing from behind. They can win when they control the tempo. Like you've seen Ohio State kind of, get in those battles with like Penn State and come out on top. You've seen those good teams have to win in different types of ways. We've really only seen Indiana win in one way. I haven't seen a massive like come from behind victory against a stalwart program. So I think it was good experience for them. Um, but it did show their flaws, and it gave me doubts about how successful they will be in the college football playoff. I do think they get in. I think they struggle with whoever they face unless it's like a Arizona State or something like that.
I agree with that, and I think that level of uncomfortableness comes from, like Will said, the O line and D line. I think that's where the level of play gets elevated when you face these top 10 teams that are considered elite. Is you might have a really good quarterback, but if he doesn't have time to throw, it's hard to be a really good quarterback. You might have a really good run game. If you can't run block, it makes it hard to run, and vice versa. If you can't get after the quarterback and you struggle stopping the run, it's going to be tough. And I think that's why, if I were to make an argument for, say, like Will saying, we looked at 4 or 5 teams possibly getting in. Now we're down to probably only 3 SEC teams. I think that's more so the reason why the SEC is the best conference in all of college football is because every game there is a level of that uncomfortableness that comes with it, where you're never going to completely control the pace of the game until you've won the game, which means you're up by however many points or you have dominated the pace for that long. So I think that's kind of a wake up call that Indiana had to go through this weekend and say, oh, okay, when we get in this realm of college football where we're not going to control everything at every second of the game and move the football how we want to move it, what do we do? And it was almost just like they were not prepared for that. And I think, back to my argument, that's why these SEC teams would be more suitable for this playoff, and their resumes would still hold the weight and strength that they would, is because they do that same thing every week. So
Yeah,
unfortunate for Indiana because I think they are a good football team still. I think I go back and forth in my head saying, are they top 12 or are they not? but I don't think their resume or their schedule has prepared them for being a top 12 team. I think they could be. They have talented players, they have a great coach and great schemes and all that. I just don't. We talk a lot about betting sense, which team has been prepared for their game better,
Yep.
and so I just with Indiana, I don't know if they're prepared for this one. Maybe this could help them adjust some things so they get over the hump and they could be more competitive against these elite teams. But nonetheless, I mean, it was a tough watch after the late in the second half when it was like, okay, they're starting to roll away with this thing.
Also, screw Ohio State for running up the score in like the last minute when they didn't need to because it made my under not hit, which was like, dude, I looked away and I'm like, I that we nailed it. There's like a minute 20 left and Ohio State got the ball back and they're up, what was it, 31-15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, it's done. Just run the clock out and I go home a winner. And then I look back over and he's sprinting for like a 40-yard run down to the 1 yard line. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
great.
I think it was obviously a run play meant to just run the clock down, but
They
I
just
think
sucked at defending it.
yeah, I think more so that was like a slap in the face of, hey, you're gonna have to earn your spot up here in
Yeah,
the Big Ten elite world.
yeah, that was so mean.
They'll still be in the playoff because I think there's something about showing up every week that'll get them in. Because I mean, like we've seen, like Bama losing to Oklahoma and Vandy,
Mm.
Ole Miss losing to Florida and Kentucky. There's something about getting your team to show up every week, no matter like if you're playing a good team or a bad team. That's why I think Indiana will get in because they haven't slipped up against bad teams like Alabama and an Ole Miss have.
There's two sides to it, right? There's what are your good wins, and
Right.
then what are your bad losses. And so, you look at good wins, but if you have no bad losses, like your only losses to Ohio State, was
Who
it
could?
as
Yeah,
competitive as it could have been? Probably not, but that's your only loss. Yeah, if I'm looking at it, if I'm Indiana and like I look at, and then you look at margin of victory against the teams that they did beat for the most part, it's hard to argue that they didn't do enough to warrant it. If they had
yeah,
showed out and like really played well against Ohio State and lost in a close game, no one would say anything. It'd be like, oh yeah, for sure, they belong. But it's because they didn't match up. You could just tell. I mean, there's 4 or 5 star recruits won who had more blue chips, and Ohio State dominated on that. They have like 50 guys that are like 4 or 5 stars, and Indiana has, I think, 9.
Right.
yeah. I
So
mean,
the
like
talent won out in the end.
Ohio State's a top three team.
Yeah.
We see. I legitimately think Indiana could. I don't think they'll beat in Oregon and Ohio State. I think they could compete with Penn State. I think
They
they
can
could.
stay in that game. They
I think
match
they
up
could.
better.
They could compete with a
I think they
like.
could compete with any ACC team right now, potentially. Any Pac-12 team or Big 12 team for
I
sure.
think. I think they win both of those conferences.
Yeah, and then I think after that, when you
I don't
look
know if
at
they beat Miami.
yeah, those would all be
It'd be a
close.
good game with Miami. That's the only one. Miami and SMU are the only two teams. I think they win the Big 12 pretty
But
easily.
I mean,
I,
we
Um,
I
can get
agree with
in
that for sure.
we can get into that later, but all those schools that we're mentioning, they would have more so of a better chance on the offensive and defensive line,
True.
right?
yeah,
Like we haven't
True.
mentioned SEC because what is down pat the most like what are you going to have in the SEC? A good offensive line for
Yep.
sure and
You're
a
gonna
good
win the
defensive
trenches.
line for sure.
Yep. You're gonna
And
win the trenches.
Indiana, I don't even think Indiana would be able to compete with 1 through 5 in the SEC right now. Like, you know what I think would be a good matchup? This would be good. Florida versus Indiana right now.
I
That
like
would be
that.
that would
Florida's
be a
kind of
good
trending
matchup.
up. Florida's going in the right direction. You can see, they're clearly playing better football.
man,
I
put
can see
Florida in the
that.
playoff. We compete.
I think
But
Indiana
that
beats
that
Missouri
kind of
by 40.
that kind of goes against the argument of okay, should Indiana get in over an SEC team that has 3 losses
3
now?
losses.
because we're saying Florida is as average in the SEC right now, and they've had the hardest schedule possible this year. And we're saying, okay, they might probably beat Indiana,
Yeah.
I don't
All
especially
think
if
right.
they
that
do,
game's at the Swamp.
but it is, yeah.
All right. Before we get too deep into it, because we are going to pull up the playoff bracket in a little while, anyways. Let's finish it. Let's go toilet bowl and then do our individual plays, and then we'll get into that stuff. Um, Freaking this one made me so. Charleston Southern at FSU, line is minus 33.5, and you're telling me that FSU wins by 34,
Did
just a
y'all see the end
half
of
a
it?
point above it.
Did y'all see the end of it?
Yeah,
Yes, I watched the entire game.
I
that
was
was upsetting.
sitting at a Mexican restaurant being like, okay. So it was, I think it was what, 41-7, something like that.
Yeah, they
And
were on like
then
the 14. They got to like the 7 maybe or something like that.
yeah, it was 41-7, and they get the ball back. I'm like, okay.
Yep,
And then
just score.
4th down, I'm like, kick the field goal, please, please
Yeah,
kick it. And
'cause
they go
they're
for it and don't get it. It was right there.
yeah,
It
no,
was
they were
right there.
they were around the 10. Like
Yes.
it was like a chip shot field goal if they had just
I'm
kicked
like,
it and like
and I'm
just get
like,
some
game's
points.
already
You're not
over.
gonna win.
Even
Yeah, you're not
yeah,
gonna win.
even if you score, game's already over. You're not gonna win. Kick the field goal. Get to double digits. Get a
I know.
moral victory.
I know.
Only
Um,
took this long in the season for Florida State to score over 21
well, no,
points.
the funny thing is this game was 3-0 at halftime.
Yeah,
It
The
was
I
streak
was
3-0
ends
at
told.
next week.
halftime. So it's like 3-0, and then I guess FSU saw one go in. Like it's like you're struggling playing basketball, and then you see one fall, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, we know
Yeah.
how to do this all of a sudden, and they rattle off like 38 consecutive points. Yeah,
Don't worry. They're not scoring 21 this upcoming week.
highly doubt it.
No,
Highly doubt it.
would be
They play
cool.
Charleston Southern might be the worst team in the FCS, and it took them 3 quarters to get like a commanding lead.
Hey,
That's
like
scary.
Florida, like 5 weeks ago was the worst team in the FBS, and
True.
now we're beating a top 10 team.
All right, are we ready to go to individual plays?
Yeah.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
let's go individuals. I've got Nate's here. I wrote it kind of fast, so bear with me. He had Colorado at Kansas. He had the Colorado cover. Kansas won the football game outright. That
Tough.
team is Kansas is actually that's like Big 12 Florida, honestly.
I was
Like
just about to
beating
say that.
like they're like that's like Big 12 Florida.
Yep.
Peaking at the right time, playing some spoiler.
Just
Just
like
like
that,
Um,
I sent it in the group chat or whatever. That video of the scene from Step Brothers where it's Florida and Kansas. Here, they're like, all right, we're here to fuck shit up.
Yeah, they really are. Like they consistently, like every week now it seems. Let's see. He had Texas Tech minus 3.5 over OK State. They won that football game by 8. Um, in a defensive struggle where there was over 100 points of offense. The thing was,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, yeah, it was like 54 to it was something like I can't remember exactly. 53 to 45 maybe. It was like 100 points. And so he got that one. Finally, he had Cincinnati covering plus 8.5 versus Kansas State. Kansas State won 41 to 15, which is slightly more than 8.5. So
What's
Nate
that
went.
like? 26?
Yep. So he went 1-2 on his individual play. So he went 3-0 on the games of the week, but 1-2 on individuals. Will, you want to go ahead and go?
Yeah, I'll go. First, we'll go with the one that, I hit. Iowa minus 6.5 versus Maryland. They didn't have their 5th-string quarterback playing this week, so they hit. Iowa kind of just dominated the entire game, to be honest. Then Wisconsin money line versus Nebraska. It was close in the first half. I legitimately thought Wisconsin could pull it out, and then Nebraska just kind of laid it on them. Just took it out and whipped it out, and then like against Wisconsin in the second half, and it just wasn't even close after that. And then Penn State minus 11 versus Minnesota. They won by 1 point. Minnesota's playing some good ball recently. We'll talk about them a little later, but they've been playing some good ball,
Yep.
and Their defense is actually a legit Power 5 defense. Offense, maybe not so great, but their defense is legitimate.
All right, let's go ACC. Um, your boy went 3-0 on the weekend for individual plays. So again, who's laughing now? I'm pretty sure it's me. I'm pretty sure it's me. Surgical on ACC performance. First one, NC State at Georgia Tech. They had NC State coming in at +10. This was easy look ahead for Georgia Tech. They got Georgia coming up. I know that's the game they care more about anyway, since they already have bowl eligibility. Georgia Tech still won the football game 30-29 in a wild one, but NC State did cover. NC State is looking for bowl eligibility in their final week versus North Carolina, just in case you guys were wondering.
They won't get
Um,
it.
Probably not. Actually, I have them covering, so they might. North Carolina because they're playing this team here. North Carolina at Boston College. Boston College was the underdog here, which the line makers for ACC they were sleeping. I saw opportunities all over the place. Boston College won this game 41-21. It wasn't even close. So I don't know why North Carolina was favored, but thank you for the coin. Finally, Stanford at Cal. Again, a horrible line. This is the big game. Like this is the game that these two teams care about more than any other. Cal was favored by 14. That's 2 touchdowns in this like a game of this magnitude. No shot. Cal wins 24-21 on a last-minute drive, 98-yard drive to win the game at the end of regulation. Extremely cool. Shout out Fernando Mendoza, quarterback for the Bears. Hell of a performance. So yeah, I went 3-0, and none of them were difficult. I didn't break a sweat.
I know I'm glad you guys are having a little bit of fun over in y'all's conferences,
I'm not. I'm
but
not.
It's a
it,
very mixed bag for me.
it's absolute chaos over here in
Yeah,
the SEC. First, we'll start off with our plus money play, which now seems like the most reasonable play. We took the Vanderbilt plus 250 money line at LSU. We had to pick a plus money play, and anytime Vandy is I don't think they should really be considered like in the plus 200s anymore. But anytime they're plus 250 or plus 200 higher, I'm taking them. Don't care who they're playing. They were at LSU. The score was 24-17. I mean, they kept it close. They lost by a touchdown in Death Valley against LSU, who's shown to be somewhat decent. They've had a tough schedule, but they are pretty good at football. So, tough loss there. But we're going to take it over. We'll just start off with the less crazy of the two, I would say. Game wise, the game wasn't as crazy. We had Alabama versus Oklahoma.
that result was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that before this week, Oklahoma was 1-5 in SEC play, and Alabama was still fighting for an SEC championship spot and a playoff spot at I think 4-2, and they had Oklahoma and Auburn next, so they could have easily been 6-2 and taken that SEC championship spot from say Georgia now. So we had Alabama covering 13 and a half against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's just been a terrible football team. They've had zero identity.
I wonder
Texas,
how that one went.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Texas blew Oklahoma out of the water. And I mean, we talk about Texas, and they only time they've played a good team, they've struggled. So if Texas is playing a bad team, they're going to win. And now we see Alabama go to Oklahoma on the road and get absolutely blown out 24-3. When it's funny Nate's not here because Nate's been the sole voice of Alabama saying, each week the defense is looking better. Each week Milroe's really figuring it out. He's really, Ryan Williams, he's that guy. And then they go out there and get absolutely slaughtered by a quarterback who didn't even throw the ball more than 11 times in a football game. It's kind of embarrassing. And it really sucks because that should have been an easy bet. Very, very easy bet to hit. Milroe is definitely a fraud, and I don't know what to do with Alabama anymore. So We'll move on to an insane football game that I think went to the triple overtime mark, and it really could have gone to the quadruple overtime mark because there was a
Dropped
easy
pass.
right in the
Yeah.
basket pass in the end zone for the 2-point conversion that was flat out dropped. It's blows my mind. We still see stuff like that in college football and how that's all you do all day at practice, and we still have that football drop to pretty much lose they drop the whole season right there. We had Texas A&M covering -2.5 against a very bad Auburn football team, who just like Oklahoma before this week was 1-5 in SEC play, and then Texas A&M thought they were going to waltz right in to Auburn and take that game pretty handily. Not going to happen. Auburn takes that game 43-41.
That was a wild game.
Yeah.
So
I
was-
was.
we went 0 for 3. When I thought I'm pretty sure I said last podcast I was very confident in my
Yeah.
my
Didn't you? Yeah.
bets.
Didn't you say
Yeah.
this was the most confident you felt all year?
I think you
Yeah.
did say that. Yeah, I think you said that.
And I mean
pretty
I'm
sure.
looking at it still, and I would still take these bets again.
All right,
I mean, yeah,
so
consistency. I was sitting there watching the Auburn game, and I knew Brandon had -2.5. And I mean, like it was basically over when they got to the 2-point plays
Yeah,
because technically they can only win by 2.
Yep.
But I'm
exactly.
like, I still want Texas A&M to win.
yeah,
And then I'm literally I was standing. I was standing watching this game.
Me
Then
too.
he throws it, and I stand up, and I'm just like, no. Like it was, I'm legit like, there's no way that just happened. And it was like 10 p.m. here already at that time. I'm like, I want to go to bed, but I'm watching this good game.
yeah.
And that's how it ends. And I mean, the commentators even said it like that game deserved a better ending. A guy dropping a pass to lose the game.
Like a perfectly located pass.
I was right here. It was right
Perfectly
here.
perfect pass. All right, so I've got the updated standings for the Bandits here. So let me. Can you guys see that? Can you see it?
Let me check
Yeah.
it out.
All right. So Brandon, on games of the week, you still are. I mean, really leading the way here. Individual plays, Nate with his Big 12 he had a down week this time, but overall he's kind of leading the way. And I am still the king of the toilet bowl, despite this past weekend's loss. First place is Nate by 1 game over Brandon. So Nate's 49-41-1. Brandon's 48-42-1. I am 46-43-2, and Will is bringing up the rear 44-46-1.
We'll get back, boys.
1 week left. 1 week left to go.
Also, I know I for some reason it's not showing up in my chat, but I saw it in there. Someone was asking us. We'll go a little off topic here. Would the Nuggets be the worst team in the league without Jokic? I mean, we don't really talk about the NBA.
Ooh, they got.
I think they'd be
It's
a bottom tier
close.
team.
They'd be
They're not
bottom,
the.
yes.
They're not the worst. Not the worst.
Yeah, it's
Not
like
the worst.
like
I
the
mean, you
Hawks
still
exist,
have-
even though
you-
we're
you
not the
still
worst.
have
But
the Wizards. The Wizards would still probably be the worst.
Are you
But
talking about just the West or NBA as a whole?
NBA as a whole,
Yeah, not the worst. Not the worst.
I mean, yeah, Jokic is arguably the best player in the NBA. So taking him out, yeah, it hurts the Nuggets a lot.
Well, yeah, because then their leading scorer is probably like Michael Porter Jr.
Either him or Jamal Murray, but Jamal Murray
guess,
is never
well,
on the court.
Yeah, I'm saying like Murray would probably be the guy, but he'd have to be the guy for 82 games, and he hasn't done that since like 2018.
Yeah, he
So,
can't stay on the court at all.
they've
But
got
yeah,
that's a team with like a bunch of like perfect role players for Jokic, and if you take
Yes.
Jokic out, it's like they have no role anymore. So I still
Bron,
think there's some
yes.
teams that have no talent
in
that
the
would
chat,
be worse.
Bron has been playing a lot better. I've been seeing him He's coming up. I mean, like he's the perfect role player for Jokic. He's a white guy and can shoot.
Yep.
That's what they need out there
Yep. They
because
need one of those
Jokic
guys.
is gonna post up or do something at the elbow or something like that, and just kick it out.
I still think the Wizards would be worse, and I actually think the 76ers would be worse.
They're freaking bad right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I still think
third
the Hawks would
worst.
be
I would have them
worse.
at third worst. Worst team in the West, third worst team in the NBA.
Yeah. For some reason though, I think they'd find a way like to do something if Jamal Murray is healthy all year, which
It
is
never
a big
happens.
if.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
never
it's a
happens.
big if. But say Jamal Murray is as healthy as Jokic is, then I think they can be a perennial. They'll be a play-in team. But if Jamal Murray is playing 30 to 40 games like he normally is, then
Yeah.
they won't make the playoffs.
Then you got Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. running your offense, and you're just not. You're going to score 70 points a game.
Yeah. But yeah, any sports questions, guys, you guys have, we'll answer it to the best of our ability. Like
Yeah.
if it's like
Some will be
cricket,
better than others.
if it's like cricket, maybe not, but like
Core
basketball,
4. Yeah, a
baseball,
core 4 sport, we got you.
Cam's
Hey,
got you in
career-
hockey.
Yeah.
Betting career, I'm still 1-for-1 on cricket bets. So
Okay, so go to Brandon with all of your
Yeah.
cricket questions.
all overs. Just take the over. Apparently,
Yeah,
cricket
yeah.
the games
Yeah.
last 4 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take the over.
The
All right.
Dodgers will not go 162-0,
They might.
but
They might.
God, dude. They got
Blake
Snell.
Snell
They got
goes,
Snell
suck.
too.
Yes.
The Dodgers might have Elon Musk as their like secret owner because they have more money than the entire U.S. debt combined. Like I just don't understand how they sign billion-dollar contracts and then shell out another 150 plus million.
And
We've
then
also like baseball is the most with the sport with the most variance. We haven't seen a repeat winner since 2000.
Nope.
No matter what. Like
Sorry,
I'm like
Joe.
are the Dodgers the favorites? Yes.
The Braves
But-
will just keep signing backup Angels players like David Fletcher, and we'll be all right.
we'll have Orlando Arcia as our shortstop for the next 6 years.
While
No.
Otani has like a sub-1 ERA and hits 50 homers, and
We got to do something
Yamamoto
at
does
shortstop.
the
We got to
same.
get like
We won't this
Willie
year.
Adames.
We won't this
like,
year. We're not gonna do it.
I know.
It's gonna be
it's so
Arcia.
annoying, and he's
we
gonna
might
hit.
go get we might go sign like Trevor Plouffe from
from the
Media.
wiffle ball team.
Yeah.
Shoot, I'd go get freaking. Remember that guy Tyler Pastrnicki? Like
Oh my
this
God, barely.
10 years
Yeah,
ago.
barely.
10 years ago on the Braves. Go get him. He's better
He's
than Arcia.
He's like
something.
Dan Uggla's replacement.
Yeah.
Go get him or something like that. Throw Acuna at shortstop. He'll be better. Like the one thing Arcia could always do was field. He couldn't even do that last year.
Nope.
And
Nope.
bend over. I appreciate what a pull. It
think-
is a pull. Ball
I will-
knowledge is here in
pretty sure
baseball.
I'm pretty sure Bend Over is Parker Duffy.
Is it actually?
I don't I that's not 100%, but I have a hunch.
If that's you, Parker, shout out. I mean,
Yeah,
even if it's
happy
not
you're
you,
here.
if it's not you, Parker, shout out too.
Yeah, happy you're here, whoever you are.
Oh, he said nope.
All right, let's. You want to pull up the actual playoff bracket
Yeah, I
that
can.
they?
It is. That makes me
that
think it is Parker Duffy.
So I want to. Can you scroll it down just a touch?
Ooh, let's see.
Oh, this is nice.
Yeah, this is. Is this Bleacher Report?
Yeah,
Well done.
we're
brother.
fancy out here this time.
Yeah.
Shout out, no free shout outs.
All right, so this is what they had right on Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, so I just kind of want just a roundtable discussion here. Where did they get it right? Where did they get it wrong? And why? What do you see happening over this basically on Saturday or Friday or Saturday? What do you see happening that would make this the not actual result of the playoff that we're going to see?
I think
conference
like,
championships as well, conference champions as well. So
I think as at the rating at the 100% moment in present right now, I think it's actually like almost correct. Because I mean, like they have the field right. Would I put this maybe in the exact same order? maybe not. Like I think I like me personally, I have UGA at 7 over Notre Dame, maybe even Tennessee over Notre Dame. But like the actual like game or not games, but like teams in that, I wouldn't have a single different team because of what happened with SEC. And as much as like committee wanted to be the top four, the Power Four conference winners get in or get the bye, it's gonna be Boise because they're gonna be ranked probably in the top 10. And Arizona State is the hottest team on the planet right now, and they're gonna win the Big 12
Yep.
and sadly run into a buzzsaw of either Ohio State or Oregon and probably get mollywopped.
So I've got mine, and I've got Oregon. I have Georgia at 2 because I still think I have them winning the SEC championship, but that's
I think in the
fine.
future,
Both those teams are flip
yes.
flopped, but like Texas is
At the moment, I
7
think
in
they got
mine.
100%, but in the future, yes, I can definitely see UGA too.
So as far as like teams that are currently, I have all of these same teams as well. I don't have a single different team. Brandon, do you have any different teams that are
Um,
not listed in this? Because I kept Indiana in it too. I actually put them at 11, so I was spot on with them.
I mean, I have different teams that I would want to see in the playoff, but knowing how the committee works
South Carolina, baby.
yeah, and how it unfolds, I think this is gonna be the bracket. So this is kind of what I'm gonna base my judgment off of. I agree with you guys. I think this will be the final bracket. I think Georgia will beat Texas in the SEC championship, so I could see just Georgia and Texas being flopped. So Texas would play Tennessee round one. And then I also would have SMU beating Miami. So I could see them just flipping as well. Um, but other than that, I think, you know, Ohio State at 5 kind of I why would they not be 4? I think it's cuz we have to have that number 4 spot be the Boise State. But no, I agree. All the teams I think are going to be correct. It sucks because do I think these are the best 12 teams in the country? No. But based off the curriculum which they make the bracket off of, yes, this is what I see the bracket being.
I think this would be a fun match, some fun matchups. Tennessee, Georgia was fun last time they played, and it'd be fun to see them. It was at Georgia last time, right?
Yeah, it'd be
Yep.
at
And
Georgia again.
yeah, it'd be at Georgia again. And I want to see how Tennessee handles that environment, like with Nico having experienced it now. Um, Indiana, Penn State. We already said earlier that would be fun. Ohio
Yeah,
State,
I like
Arizona
that one.
State. Ohio State, Arizona State might kind of be a blowout,
That's
but
going to be Ohio State minus 21.
yeah. And then, but I think Notre Dame SMU would be fun. That one would be
Yeah.
fun. And then, I mean, whoever wins out of Tennessee UGA, that Oregon game, that would be probably the best game
Yeah.
of the of the
Was
whole
it
college football playoff.
was it last year that Georgia put up like 50 against Oregon? Or was that 2 years
Yeah,
ago? It
yeah.
was last year.
Was it? Yeah, I think so because it was with Bo Nix. I know that, and I
Yeah.
think yeah, it was week one. Y'all put up like it was like 48-6 or something like that. But
Yeah.
then they come back and or it might have been
No, you're right. It was like 50. I think it was like more so like 54-3.
yeah. I just don't know if it was this year or like this past year or last year.
I think it was this past year because I think we were all at our previous employer.
Mm.
We were there, yeah.
All right. So I have a little bit of chaos that I can legitimately see happening, particularly around group of 5, which in the grand scheme of things probably won't make a ton of difference once you get to like semifinals and finals games, obviously. But for the purposes of the playoff, I do think it's intriguing. Boise State obviously is the group of 5 team that is favored. They, as long as it's pretty much a sure thing. They're playing UNLV for the Mountain West title. I think UNLV can win that game. And if UNLV wins that game, it will actually be between them and Tulane for the highest ranked Group of 5 team to get in. Tulane is 9-2, 7-0 in conference. They're probably going to play Army for the American Athletic. They're currently ranked 17th. So if Tulane wins their conference championship, UNLV wins their conference championship, I think they give it to Tulane, and Tulane sneaks in, probably ends up being the 12 seed, if I had to guess,
Yeah, for
in
sure.
this tournament, and then maybe Arizona State gets the bye
Yeah, because
if they
Tulane
win out.
has 2 losses, which would be absolutely crazy that we're having a 2-loss Group of 5 team get in.
That's what I'm saying. So
But yeah, I mean,
now
like, do I see it happening? I think Boise wins again, but it is hard to beat a good team, and UNLV is a legitimately good team twice.
they're solid.
So
They took Syracuse isn't like, but Syracuse they have had their moments where they're very good, and they took Syracuse to overtime. So like they can compete against some Power Four teams. I think that would be fun just because we're getting chaos in literally like I feel like Boise State, Oregon, Ohio State, and Boise State have been like the mainstays in this, and everyone else is like either been on like the fringe or is like there's been doubts about their playoff promise depending on who they lost to the prior week. But I feel like if that happens, it'd be fun to see a team like Tulane just sneak in out of nowhere and people be like, where did these guys even come from?
I think there'll
Um,
be a one team that does do that. Like they'll give it like like even like if nothing happens, there'll be one team that the committee's like that that gets in and we're like, what the heck? Like why are they in the playoff? Or like something like that. Which I mean, if it happens, like hope it's South Carolina. But something like that. Also, we'll get to I know someone asked in the chat about Miami potential upset at Syracuse.
I've got
That is
something on that.
actually, that's actually one of our games of the week next
Yep.
week. So we'll get to that later. It's definitely possible.
Yep.
And then that Bo Nix game at Oregon versus Georgia was 2 years ago. I couldn't remember to be honest. But yeah, I remember that game vividly because Oregon was like horrible that entire game. Then for some reason decided to pop off the rest of the year.
One other thing about this is I have to be the one to say it because I've been saying that this is going to happen for the last like 6 weeks now. Notre Dame loses another game, and I said which game they were going to lose. This weekend is the weekend. They lose to USC. It's not on any of our best bets or anything. It's not on any of our games of the week. But just so you guys heard on the podcast, I have had USC beating Notre Dame for the last 5 or 6 weeks. I'm staying by my word. I'm a man of my word. So I'm either
Oh,
going to I mean,
it
I'm 50%. I say some stuff that's like, wow, he's a genius, and then I have Army moments where they're like, yeah, you're stupid. So
it's
we'll
in
see
our
which side of
individual
the
plays.
yeah, we'll see which side. Oh yeah, you have you
Notre
did the
Dame -7.
no,
It's the
they're
spread is so low. They
USC
can
is
win by a
covering that.
touchdown.
USC
They
is
can win by a
covering and winning
They don't have a
by
quarterback.
4. They've got good receivers.
They
They've
can't.
got
The
really good
quarterback can't get them
receivers.
the receivers.
Now they short routes and then yards after the catch. Notre Dame can't defend the pass. They haven't had to, and anytime they have, they give up more than 25 points. The closest games that they've played are against teams that can throw the ball a little bit.
Will USC stop Notre Dame?
I think it will be their best test defensively. It'll be the best test that they have faced. I think they'll be able to score, but I think they can be slowed because they haven't faced another defense that is really, I mean, any good at all, honestly.
I think
Alright.
Notre Dame's just clicking too much.
I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this bracket. I think the only team that is an absolute lock to still be in there right now is just Oregon.
Yeah.
I think
I think
Oregon
Ohio State
can.
is,
Ohio
unless they
State
lose to
probably
Michigan.
is.
But
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying. Like Oregon could lose the next game. Who is it? Washington.
yeah,
Yeah, they could lose to Washington and they could lose the um, conference championship and still be in. I don't think there's another team on here that could do that and still get in. Like if Ohio State loses to Michigan and loses to Oregon again, they're definitely out, right?
with how much they love the Big Ten, they have shown to love the Big Ten. I think Ohio State potentially, if they lose to Michigan and Oregon, But I think also because they won't make the Big Ten championship, Penn State. If they lose next week, they're 10-2. They're ranked number 4, I think, right now. And they're 6 on this bracket, but I think overall in the rankings, they're ranked number 4. I don't think they drop out all the way out of the top 12, especially because they only have 2 losses and how much they love the Big Ten this year.
True.
Right. So like take it to Texas. Texas A&M they lose to or Texas if they lose to Texas A&M, they don't go to the conference championship in the SEC. Do they still get in? At same thing at 10-2 with no conference to play. Like would that game what I'm saying more so is like would it be a smart loss for Texas to lose on purpose to Texas A&M? Because do you think they could still have a chance to get in there and secure one less game on their schedule leading up to
They
the
get a little
like
less beat up. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but they could also they go to the SC championship and win. They get a bye and guaranteed home game until, or not home, technically not a home game, but like they get a bye basically.
but
Yeah.
And
do you want to risk the bye or do or do you want to go against Georgia in the SEC championship? Like, you know what I'm saying?
That is like an interesting
I
kind
mean, yeah,
of.
but like also like you said for Brandon, that you've been saying for the whole season, don't leave it up to the committee because that's what Georgia did last year, and then they didn't get
Right.
in.
You
True.
definitely don't want to.
No.
But I'm
Um,
saying like in Oregon, they could go out there and lose against Washington. And they like what I'm saying, they wouldn't want to lose any of their games, I wouldn't feel like. They're already locked in there. They know they're going to get a bye. Well, not necessarily, not yet, but they've been a lock all week. They can win or lose and still be in, right?
if I'm
Yeah,
Oregon, though, I want to win out because it almost guarantees I face an inferior or an inferior team.
they get the
Well,
4 seed if they win.
with this bracket, if they win out, if this
That's now
bracket
I'm
stays
looking
the
at it. Yeah,
same,
they've got to face SEC first
they
round.
haven't faced anybody of that caliber yet. So would
So
they be
they
prepared?
so they
Maybe
try to
Ohio
pull
State,
an
but
Ohio State and get the 5 seed. Don't have to play
I
for that.
I
like
just don't think teams like
I'm
seed
looking at
watch really.
I'm looking at this bracket, and I would love to be an Ohio State fan and this turn out like this. You're telling me we could really not worry about the conference championship? We could play Arizona State and then Boise State and then be in the national championship? That's cake
Or
Yeah,
for
they
an
they
Ohio
would they
State
would
team.
they would have to go through a Oregon, UGA, or Tennessee to get to the Natty, but they'd be in the semifinals playing one of them.
Right. And that, I mean, that's easy.
yeah.
Just to get
Yeah,
there.
You didn't take any damage in either of those games leading
No.
up to that point.
I mean, the hardest route in the bracket looks like if you are that 8 or 9 seed right now, and you'd have to go through an Oregon, and then you'd have to, go through Ohio State potentially. So
What
like
I've
just think about from Georgia's perspective where they would play Tennessee again, hard to beat a team twice. Then they'd go have to play the number one team in the country. Then they'd have to go play Ohio State. Then
that's a
they'd have to go
gauntlet.
play the national championship.
That's a
It's a
gauntlet.
gauntlet,
That's
and
that's the
I
hardest
don't
stretch
think
of
they get
games
through
in
it.
the season for them.
I don't think they get through it because, like, I cannot trust Carson Beck to play that good for 3 games against
No,
those 3 teams.
I don't
he's gonna
I
have
don't think
one. He's gonna
I
have
don't
one.
think there's a
Yeah,
I don't think there's a single team in college football this year that would be able to go through that. But
No,
it's tough.
If we're going to talk specifically about Georgia, they're the most prepared team to go through that because I mean they've had to play Alabama, Texas, Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and all the other SEC teams they've had to play. So
what I've
as far as if you take an Arizona State and say, "Hey, Arizona State, you got to go play Tennessee, then you got to play Oregon, then you got to play Ohio State, then you got to go play, say, Notre Dame." Good
no,
luck when all
yeah,
you've played all season, your hardest opponent you face is BYU. There's no way.
no. Okay, um, let's. All right, go ahead and close it out. We're over an hour in, so we still got to do the preview. Before we move on, let's make sure we do team of the week, dog of the week, disappointment of the week. And I'm gonna have a question after disappointment of the week because I know who all of our disappointments are. I'm gonna have a follow-up question. But team of the week, I'm gonna start. Ohio State is mine. I just think that was a statement win, the way they blew them out, and really established themselves as. I mean, it was just give us your best shot. We'll see if you guys belong in the Big Ten, and they kind of showed them what was up. So I thought that was a good win for them against. I thought was a pretty good team, but might leave a little to be desired.
Mine, you might call me a homer because I'm doing it 2 weeks in a row.
Most people
Them
will.
Florida Gators
Yep, most people
beating
will.
a top 10 team, basically ending their season. You're welcome, Georgia fans. We got them out. Yeah, it's Florida. Like we're just the best 6-5 team in the country.
Yeah, you had them winning 3 games this season. Now look at them now.
We're bowling. We're bowling.
I have Oklahoma, but I have / Florida because I am a Georgia fan. And like Will said, they ended Ole Miss's season pretty much. Oklahoma ended Alabama's season. Georgia was on the fringe, outside looking in almost. And now
Sitting
both those
pretty.
teams, yeah, Oklahoma and Florida came through in the clutch. And now we have a chance as a Georgia fan to go win an SEC championship and get a
Honestly,
bye.
I
So
think
that's
it
all.
helped Tennessee the most because they were
True, very true.
seriously on the fringe, and now they're
Yeah.
basically locked in because they're not going to make the SEC championship, but
Yep.
they're going to go 10-2.
Because they didn't
Tennessee
have the
had
resume.
Zero chance. Zero chance to get in unless what happened. Even if Florida loses and Oklahoma still wins, or vice versa, Tennessee's still out.
Yeah. They had the worst resume.
So this was the only way they could get in, pretty much.
Dog of the week, Kyle McCord. I think this is the second time I've nominated him as dog of the week. 37 of 47, 470 yards passing, a couple touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown, which to me is epic because he doesn't run. So the fact that he did that as well, that's probably the game of his life.
That's hard.
Mine, Bryce Thornton, DB for Florida. He not only had the pick in the end zone towards the end of the game, then also Jackson Dart throws a pick to him, and then it was an incomplete pass because it was a tough catch. The very next play, he catches another pick from Jackson Dart.
You love to
It
see
was
Yeah, that's
which
massive.
I mean, like I really like out of all the SEC teams, it sucks because out of all the SEC teams, I wanted probably Ole Miss to do the best because I hate Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, all of them. But we kind of ended their season. But I mean, like I'm always gonna root for Florida. Like I can't not.
Is
But
the SEC East back?
maybe.
Yeah,
I don't think they ever left, but the SEC West was always better. So
Yeah.
I'll say my dog of the week is Jackson Arnold because he totally flipped the script and said, Jalen Milroe, I'm going to do what you do a lot of, and that's run the football, not throw the football. Jackson Arnold went 9 for 11 throwing the football. So
efficient.
can't win a game
9-11?
like that. He had 25 carries for 131 yards, no picks. So
Yikes.
impressive day, and it's he's my dog of the week more so because Oklahoma's they've been struggling with identity. He's been battling injury on and off in the season. Oklahoma actually threw their freshman quarterback in the backup to start a few games, just almost on position battle, and they threw Jackson Arnold back in against a really really good defense, supposedly a really really good defense, and he did what everybody in America least expected. So, and he did pretty dang good at it. So it was awesome to watch.
All right. So for disappointment of the week, I've got Texas A&M for obvious reasons. Will,
Okay.
you have?
I wrote down Ole Miss, but I'm gonna switch it.
Okay.
I literally got on the train last week, and then they sell Colorado.
That's a sleeper.
I just got on the train. Was like, I put them in my bracket. Everything. I was like, I'm a believer in Colorado now.
That's a sleeper.
Then they lose to Kansas. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just
so
got on.
true. So true.
They literally are the Big 12 Ole Miss, and Kansas is the Big 12 Florida. So
Yep, that's correct. Brandon, who was yours?
I have Alabama for obvious reasons. They were sitting pretty, even though they battled adversity against Tennessee and Vanderbilt. You can't have this very, very bad loss. Milrow had 7 yards running only, and he threw 3 interceptions,
Oh, he
and
had a bad game.
he
Yeah.
was only 11 for 26. So even if those picks aren't picks, he's still only 14 for 26. So that's terrible to see. I think the script is out on him. If you can stop his running ability, it's tough for them to win football games and be very productive on offense. So
Okay, so real quick, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas A&M. Which loss was the worst?
I say it would have to be Alabama because I think they were more so in the driver's seat with, they were in line. I think we talked about how everything shaped up if everybody was tied, how it would have been Texas versus Alabama in the SEC championship. And Alabama can I would have thought last week that Alabama could have easily beat Texas in the SEC championship. We would have easily seen a bye week from Alabama leading into the
Yep.
playoff,
Yep.
and it would have been typical. Another Alabama is waltzing into the championship game again with new coach, and it's just everybody's just bandwagoning Alabama. So I hated that. I loved seeing them lose. I think that was the worst loss too because they're supposed to be a top 10 team in the country, and they only put up 3
Yeah,
points.
they laid down.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was embarrassing.
I think we can all agree that the worst, the out of if we were ranking them, the third is Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I think we can agree with that.
Yep.
And I would say Texas A&M because I think Auburn is the worst teams out of all of them, but Texas A&M still has a path. They can beat Texas, win the SEC.
True.
So I'm going to go Bama as well, strictly because they're done.
I
Texas
think
A&M could
if
still win the E SEC.
true. If yeah, okay, so I actually was going to say Texas A&M because of the manner in which they lost and how demoralizing that
That
would
is
be,
bad. Yeah.
but they
And
still have hope. And
Yeah.
so I think I kind of flip-flopped. And I think it is Bama too. I was going to go Texas A&M, but they still have a path, and Bama, I mean that's a bad loss.
yeah,
You can't come back from that, not with 3 losses.
The Texas A&M loss is very bad, and it only makes it worse with that drop because I like
Like from the heartbreaking perspective,
yes,
I was like, that's
yes,
just
it's
a
so
terrible way
bad.
to go out. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's go week 14. We will start with the games of the week. Brandon, do you have those down?
yes, we are
Run
ready
us
to
through
rock
those
and
real
roll.
quick.
Week 14, rivalry week.
Yes,
There we go.
Rivalry.
Rivalry.
I know we have Black Friday games, so I'm not sure if any of these are them 100%,
If we
but
did
I don't
Tulane, it
think
would have
so.
been. If we did Tulane, but we
okay.
didn't
I
do
think
And
Tulane.
I know
the
Georgia Tech is on Black
that
Friday
one's on
too.
Friday too.
True.
Yeah,
That's kind of
True.
awesome. But let's start off with, I would say, less. There's still every game on our game slate is very, very high in the future of college football schedule that we're looking at with the bracket. But we're going to start off Miami versus Syracuse. Miami is an 11-point favorite. Over under there is a whopping 67 and a half.
shout out
Might be
bend
That is
low.
over.
awesome.
We all say it like that.
Yep.
Rivalry.
Rivalry.
And I don't know. I feel like I have a good knowledge of college football and rivalries, and I play college football, the video game, a lot. And I've done like hundreds of dynasties with different teams, so I know the schedule and their rivalries. I was in the dark that Miami's rivalry was Syracuse.
um, yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was like I know Florida had Florida State.
Should be like
I
UCF or something.
Yeah, I didn't know it was like
That would
all the
suck.
way up.
It should be Miami, Ohio.
That would be funny. That would be funny.
So that'll be a fun one to watch because I mean Syracuse has been a team we've talked about on this podcast before. They've been a team that has been a scary team to play. And I think Miami's been in some really, really close football games where they've had some things go their way, they've had some things not go their way, and it's there's a lot of hope for Miami right now. I don't think they've looked dominant, but I still know they're a really good football team. So it'll be fun to watch. I think Syracuse, on the other hand, would love nothing more than to wreak havoc on Miami and really make it tough for them to find themselves in the top 12 at the end.
Yep.
So that'll be a fun one to watch. We're going to move on to South Carolina at Clemson. Huge game. Huge game because
Playoff
this is
implications.
SEC versus ACC. There's playoff implications. I could still see somewhat of a path for Clemson to get into the playoff. If they win convincingly, I could see Clemson sneaking in there somehow. So
somehow.
I
They
know
could
we
get
got
votes. They could get votes.
True, we got, Four Eyes Lenore Sellers going out there, and he's going to probably do his
He doesn't
thing.
have the goggles on anymore.
Yeah, true. He needs to put them back on. But we got Dabo Sweeney. This game's at Clemson. I think I read the stat that Clemson leads the rivalry matchup like 79-42 or
Yeah,
something
it's
like
bad.
that. So
It's
Clemson
bad.
has been dominating this matchup for a while, especially in recent years with all the success Clemson's had. And I would say that, downslope South Carolina's been on for a little bit. So, but this year with two really, really good teams that need this football game because, South Carolina is a fringe team. We'd have to see absolute chaos for them to get in, but there still is a path. They still have a percentage that's not zero for them to make the college playoff. Same thing with Clemson. So I think this game's going to be a hard fought physical ball game. Clemson coming out of Vegas -3, 3-point favorite there. The over under is 49. Those two lines are pretty good. First look at them, I would say that's pretty. It's going to be tough to pick either way, but we'll get into it. What we think, what we're going to take later on. We're going to move on to Texas versus Texas A&M. This game is whoever wins is going to the SEC championship against Georgia. Both these teams need this game. They need the SEC championship. So I think that raises the stakes already. Texas A&M coming off a bad loss against Auburn overtime. We talked about that. And Texas hasn't played anybody good since Georgia. So we're going to see them play I wouldn't say a really, really good football team, but a football team that's, a lot better than the teams they played all year. Texas coming out of the gates as a 5-point favorite. The over-under is going to be 48.5, which I personally think is low. And not to mention, this game is at Kyle Field, 12th man at, I believe, 7:30. So it's going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be a tough place to play. All the things you love about college football with playoff implications and conference championship implications on the line. And we get a freshman quarterback who's been starting in Texas A&M, and we get the veteran of Quinn Ewers over there at Texas. So
Oh, yeah.
we get a little bit of kind of, that Peyton Manning versus Cam Newton kind of vibe going into this game where
Yeah.
it's the old head versus the new age of college football. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in that one, but I'm excited for it. Really, really good slate on rivalry week.
Rivalry
So
week.
I'm excited. Like I said, like we say every week, it's almost like every single week in this college football season when a lot of people said when the 12-team playoff was implemented that regular season games will kind of lose their value. I think every single week it's been upped in value and it's been more
Yeah.
fun to watch.
I
So
think there's more. I think there's more.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
would have never thought that Florida will be favored by 17 in rivalry week.
Against FSU, man.
Yeah, who would have thought coming in this year Florida would be favored by 17?
I bet like preseason line was FSU by 17.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
All right, let's start with Miami at Syracuse. I'll go ahead and you know what? You guys go ahead. I have Nate's pick. I'll do his after you guys go. I would like to speak last. I've got a decent amount of thoughts on this. Whoever
I'll
wants
go
to
ahead.
go. Go ahead.
I think there's a lot of points. I saw someone in the chat say Syracuse plus 11. I didn't mind that. I think they can I think Syracuse can win this game, but I think this game is going to be 45-35, something like that, something along those lines. Miami's going to be down probably 17 and then come back and win just like they have been all year somehow. Um, it is very high, but over 67.5.
I love it. It's bold.
I love that too. I think I'm gonna go with the safer pick. More like just like you said, Miami's probably going to be down a sizable margin in this game at some point and then come back and win. So I see it being close, if anything, at the end. I'm going to take Syracuse plus 11. Um, you get a touchdown field goal and you still hit your bet. I love that. And I think Syracuse would love nothing more than to win this game and see their rival struggle.
Their
So
As
rival,
long as they don't throw like what 3 pick sixes and five picks in total, I think they'll be fine.
yeah,
they don't do that often. Only once a year, I think, is what I heard. Nate has Miami minus 11. He did not give a reason,
Scrub.
but that's what he has. Just so his bet is
Nate's
now on the
probably
table.
not even in the right mind space. He's probably, he's in Italy, right? Just
Yeah,
drinking wine, eating pizza, stuff like that.
living in
I
a
mean,
state
shoot,
of
I would
denial.
too.
He's like Miami by 100.
They're good. They're ranked in the top 10.
If I was in Italy, I'm probably taking Syracuse money line.
True.
All right. So with this game, there is one for certain. Syracuse cannot do anything at all to stop Miami from scoring. They cannot. There is not a single way they can stop Miami from scoring. So the decision you have to make is, does Miami stop Syracuse from scoring? So that's just the call. It's either one thing is for certain, Miami scores 40. The other thing is they last week they played Wake Forest. Granted, Wake Forest much worse offense than the offense they're going to see for Syracuse, but they had a way to stop Wake Forest from scoring. They had a bye week where I watched some extra film and they made some defensive adjustments, and Wake Forest only scored 14 points. So you have a decision to make. Does that carry over against a better opponent, or does Syracuse find a way to score and make it a shootout? I personally have it being a shootout. Syracuse is a very tough place to play historically. There's other things. Syracuse has lost by no more than 2 points at home at any point this season. So
Indoor stadium too, right?
yeah, it's an indoor stadium. So they have one loss at home and it's by 2 points. On the road, Miami has not beaten any team by more than 7 points. So I put both of these things together. Regardless of how it goes, I think Syracuse covers this game, and I think they make it closer than what most people would think. So Syracuse plus 11.
I
I love
like it.
that.
Let's go. We'll do Texas A&M last. So South Carolina at Clemson. Brandon, what do you have here?
I am going to take South Carolina plus 3. Simply because I think they're a very hot team right now. I think they, you know, we saw Clemson play SEC opponent way back in week 1 when they played Georgia and they got absolutely slaughtered. But I still see Clemson being a really good football team too. Phil Maffa, really good running back. They're a really hot team right now too, even though I would say their record is obviously not what they would want it to be. They're a really good football team. Like I scroll through some of like, you see these college football edits on Twitter, TikTok, social media pages, and there's a bunch of fans that comment in the posts or whatever. So every time I go on one, I see like all these Clemson fans are saying, even if we lose, even if we don't make the playoffs, this is a fun team to watch. Extremely proud of them. And that takes a lot because I know if Georgia was, on the fringe, and you guys even see me on this podcast, when Georgia goes out and has a performance like they did against Ole Miss, I'm pissed. I don't want anything to do with that team for a week or so until they turn it around. So, I mean, Clemson, veteran players, really, really good defense as always. But South Carolina, I just think they're really hot. I think this season has prepared them more so for this game. And I think Sellers, if he plays how he's capable of, I still think South Carolina is a top 12 team in the country. If Sellers plays like he's capable of and the defense shows up and Rocket Sanders runs the football like he knows how to. So I'm going to go with South Carolina +3. I think they can win the football game. If they don't win the football game, I see this game being won or lost with a last-second field goal to take the lead. So +3 with plus potential there. That's my safe bet, even though I think South Carolina money line would be pretty fun.
Will?
I thought me and Brandon were genuinely going to be on the same page here, and we kind of are. South Carolina money line. I'm taking it. I'm going with it. I
I'm taking it
genuinely think they win this game.
because standings wise, I'm second overall, right?
Yep.
So I need this safe pick. If I
Yes.
was
Yeah.
like, if I
So
was
okay,
like,
before you make a decision, Nate took the money line, South Carolina money line, and he's
okay,
got the
good.
game. Yeah. So I feel like for
So
your advantage, you go with the cover
we're a
Yeah.
low key Clemson fan right now. We just
to an
want the game
extent.
to be really,
Just make
really
it tight.
close.
Just make it
Yeah,
tight.
really close.
I think sometime like maybe for next year we got to do something where it's like instead of like taking like if we take money line, it's like 1.5 wins or something like that instead of like 1 win, something like that. So it gives you an incentive to take a money line instead
Oh,
of a
to
spread.
more risk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
But
Noted.
yeah, I'm going straight up South Carolina money line. I think they win this game, and I genuinely think they win by double digits. Going on the record, double digits win.
Okay.
Um, I'm also going +3 for safety purposes.
Safety purposes.
But before this was a game of the week, this was going to be my plus money play, the South Carolina money line. So, but for the purposes of this, I'll play the safe bet. I think South Carolina wins this game by 10 points.
And I mean, hey, Cade Klubnik's been around. He's been around for a long time. You know what I mean?
Clemson played the Citadel last weekend, and they gave up 288 yards on the ground against
Hold
the
up.
Citadel.
South Carolina almost lost to the Citadel
When?
way earlier in the season.
Oh, so there's something to them. There's
The
something to
Citadel
them.
might be goaded, but
They
both schools
maybe.
struggled. Both schools did struggle. I'll find the exact score, but I know that happened.
Wasn't it
for a
only
fact.
like it was like 24-14 or something like that? It was something like
Mm.
they didn't score that well.
So what I'm thinking is South Carolina doesn't have like the greatest run game in the land, but it's better than the Citadels. It has to be. I have a pre-game dog of the week prediction in Rocket Sanders. Pre-game, I think he's gonna go off. On the offensive side for Clemson, the left side of their offensive line is completely banged up. South Carolina has a solid pass rush. It's going to be trouble. He's not going to be able. Cade's going to have trouble getting the ball out on time. Any runs to the weak side are not going to work. There is no matchup advantages for Clemson at all. South Carolina will win this game. I'm taking the +3 for South Carolina.
I love that.
And Nate took the money line. So just make sure I said that right. All right, last one, Texas and Texas A&M. Whoever wants to go. Let me look up and see what Nate had.
I got you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that was bad football knowledge. There was Old Dominion, South Carolina, only beat 23-19.
No, even better.
I remember there being a game
Yeah.
earlier this year or something like that. But
That's on me.
yeah,
That's on me. Citadel,
All good.
Old Dominion, same colors.
get your ball
scheme
knowledge
is
up.
similar.
Like Tyler Pasternicky ball knowledge got to be
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah. If we're gonna make it
Texas-
big,
Texas versus Texas A&M. I don't think Texas A&M has the offense to keep up because yes, they scored 41 on Auburn. It's Auburn. I don't think Marcel Reed either plays like the second coming of Jesus Christ or he
it's a little
plays
bit
like
of inconsistency to his game.
or like DeJuan Mathis, if you guys know who that is.
The names you're pulling today.
Great pull.
Yeah, he has no in between. So I'm gonna bet on the bad side and go with Texas -5. I think it's kind of low. I mean, like this game could be close and they win by a touchdown. So I'm gonna go Texas -5.
Brandon, go ahead and go. I gotta find something for Nate here.
Yeah, I think Will's kind of spot on. It's almost like ever since that Texas A&M versus South Carolina game, Marcel Reed has not been the same guy. Um, I struggle making this pick here because it is back and forth because Texas hasn't played a lot of talent all season. Like, really, the only time we saw them play talent was against Georgia, and they got absolutely ran out of the water. And that's solely because I think Georgia's defense really stepped up that day. And Texas A&M's been known at times to have a really, really good defense and get after the quarterback. So what we see when Quinn Ewers has pressure is he turns into a very, very average um, pocket presence where he can't deliver accurate footballs. So I would say Texas -5 is smart. I could easily see them winning by a touchdown, especially after Texas A&M's bad loss last week. But to me, Texas A&M needs this game a lot more. So I feel like what Cam was almost saying about Miami versus Syracuse is I see Texas scoring, let's say, close to 30 points this game. If Auburn can do it, Texas can do it against Texas A&M's defense. On the flip side, when you have Marcel Reed, mobile quarterback, can do both. If he plays well, which will be tough to play well against this good of a defense that he probably hasn't seen a lot of this caliber this season, especially being a freshman. I think he is still a very good playmaker, but he's got to come to play Saturday. I see this turning into a shootout, and I see 48.5 being pretty low for this game. So, on the safe side of things, where I still see Texas possibly running away with it at times, I'm going to go over 48.5 because I can easily see this game at least being like, if it's just tied, say, 28-28 at one point, we already hit the over. And I
Yep.
think that's very, very doable by, let's say, like the end of the third quarter. I think the score could easily be there. So,
48.5 does seem very low.
yeah,
Seems very low.
I wrote that down. Nate took the Texas A&M cover.
fair.
I'm with him. I also wrote down the over, but I'm going to go with the cover. So I've had this game penciled in for a couple weeks now. Y'all have heard me say Texas A&M is going to win this game. I'm generally not someone that changes my mind even when like proof is like presented in front of me. The Texas A&M win seems a lot less likely to me than it did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they got a few things going for them. I think because of like the desperation that Texas A&M has, I think the game should be close. They know their season's kind of on the line with it. Texas A&M has also won the last 6 games on Senior Day that they have played, so there's some history there. They generally play well on Senior Day. Um, I also think Texas can lose this game and still be okay. I think they can like still sneak into the playoff even if they lose this game. So again, the desperation factor leads me towards Texas A&M covering this. I don't think they win this game anymore, but I think it's competitive. So Texas A&M +6.
Yeah,
I
this
like
is
that.
one of those where anything you pick to me feels like a pretty
You
decent
can
pick.
make it make sense.
Yeah.
You can make it
Yeah.
make sense, especially with like Texas A&M and like the level of variance to their play, like the ups, the highs of the highs, and the lows of the lows. You really don't know
Right.
what version, particularly the quarterback,
Yeah.
Reed. Like you don't know
Yeah.
what you're gonna get, and if he has one of those days where he shows out and can't be stopped, they have every chance to win this game. It
Yeah.
really just depends on him.
To
Just
me, if I had to pick a winner, I would pick Texas solely because the experience from players like you got Quinn Ewers, Isaiah Bond, and that's their pretty much a lot of their offense,
I
and those
think I
guys
would
have been
too
at the
now.
biggest stage.
Yeah,
So
I think I would too. But I I think it will be competitive at the
yeah,
very least.
before we move to toilet bowl, I asked the
Yep.
chat what their plays of the week were. Um, Someone said Oregon State +19.
Oh, that's a deep cut. Look at that.
Oregon State versus Boise State spreads 19, over under 57.5. What do you guys got on this one? No explanation needed. Just say it.
I like it. Oregon State plus
I
19.
like the cover. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. Boise State hasn't looked that good the last few weeks. I feel like they've been down a little bit. Genty's getting a little banged up. You see him kind of coming out for a few plays. He's got like an ankle thing going on. I can definitely see the cover for
And
Oregon State.
with Ginty, they do run the ball a lot, which takes a lot of time, so it's
True.
hard to blow opponents out. So
Yeah, I with the running, I'm gonna take the under 57.5.
I like
Just
that
kind
too.
of
yeah,
just kind of go with it.
I like that too.
But yeah, someone asking, can you go over your picks of the week again? Didn't get it. So I think so. Everyone run through what their picks for the games of the week were. Mine were um, South Carolina money line versus Notre Dame, or not Notre Dame. Where am I going with that? Clemson plus 135. Texas versus Texas A&M. Texas -5 versus Texas A&M. And then Miami versus Syracuse over 67.5.
South Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina +3, Texas A&M. I have Texas A&M +6. Everyone's covering. Everyone's covering. Syracuse and Miami. Syracuse +11.
I have Syracuse +11 versus Miami, South Carolina +3 against Clemson, and I have the under 48.5 Texas A&M.
All right, we ready to 20 minutes? Yeah, let's move on to toilet bowl.
Yeah, Missouri -3 as well. Who's Missouri got? They said that in the chat. Who's Missouri got? Let me see.
Missouri
Arkansas.
has
Bad pick.
Arkansas, I believe.
Bad
Yeah,
pick.
Arkansas.
I got that as one of mine in the SEC.
Missouri is fraudulent. They're a top.
Absolutely
They're a
fraudulent.
top 50 team. Any others before we move on?
No, I think we're good.
Cool. All right, toilet bowl. Sad we don't have Nate here. He would love this one. Southern Miss at Troy. For those
He
of you who
loves
don't
Troy.
know, Nate is a massive Troy fan. That's his favorite team, like even more so than Alabama. Both teams kind of having a down season. Troy was pretty good last year by group of 5 standards. So they're what are they 3-8 now? And I believe Southern Miss has 1 win. So Battle of Titans here. Troy is favored by 17.5 points. The over under, I have it at 48.5, unless it has moved since then.
It was at
Um,
49 when I checked, but I mean 48.5, 49,
we'll,
same thing.
we'll go with it. 48.5. The line's still the same, 17.5.
Yeah.
Good deal. What do you guys have? Let me look up what Nate's got.
First off, just going. They said and East Carolina's Nate's favorite team. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Got his favorite quarterback.
Jake Garcia.
Yeah.
I wonder how many picks he's had on the year, and of course, appreciate the picks. The great picks compliment. We really try as hard as we can. Southern Miss versus Troy. I am actually going to go the over 48.5.
You too?
2 words. Fireworks.
Fireworks. I wrote it down. I wrote it down. Fireworks.
I hope so bad.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm running it back.
I'm going to go over 48.5. I mean, like, I think Troy will probably cover this game, but I think it's like a 45, 17 game, something like that.
Yep. I also have the over 48.5. I think it's going to be an offensive showcase between these two Titans. Brandon, what do you have?
First of all, shout out Jake Garcia. I don't know if he got hurt or if he got benched. He hasn't played since October 5th.
He probably got benched, man. He got benched. Yeah, he got benched for sure.
He played in 6 games this season. He stopped his interception. He was at 12 interceptions through 6 games.
Probably no longer the leader.
I think he had I think he had 12 with 4 games. So I mean, last 2 games, 0 picks. He was turning up.
But I have Troy covering. I forgot the line.
17.5.
But they're covering that.
All right, hold on.
Just because of Nate. I've heard for a year how good of a football program Troy has.
No, he trusts these guys.
In Alabama, give me Troy. They're putting in the work.
They're so good that they're 3-8.
Okay, well, I have some bad news. Some bad news for Nate. He did not put a play in for this game, which means I'm going to put one in for him. Southern Mississippi money line plus 625.
Hey,
no, I think
was from. Brett Favre, Southern Miss alum.
I think we
No,
all
he's
know
gonna have the
Nate.
cover. He's gonna
Yeah,
have
I
the
think we
Troy
all
cover.
know
Yeah.
Nate would go Troy cover.
So we'll put the
He
Troy
would
cover
have
in
to.
for him. Yeah, we'll put the Troy cover in for him. But no, he didn't put one in, so
That's funny.
that would be hilarious. Oh, I thought that's what you wrote down.
We go
All
into
right.
individual plays.
Yep, individual plays. Will, do me a favor and do yours first. I gotta
Yeah, I'll
pull
go
Nate's
first.
up.
Yeah. Individual plays. I know Cam said USC's winning. Fuck that.
They're winning the football game.
Lock of the week. Notre Dame -7 versus USC.
That's your lock?
Lock of the week.
Oh,
Like
you
it.
don't
I'm
want to
doing-
lose your
I'm a fan
lock,
of it.
Will.
I always
I'm a
lose my
fan
lock.
of it.
Yeah, lock of the week. Notre Dame -7. USC is just not a good football team. I don't know how to say it. They're just not. Remember when Brandon said Miller Moss was going to be a first round draft pick? No, he got benched. No, they're not a
Who'd
good
they
football team.
beat? Who'd they beat earlier in the season?
LSU.
LSU.
Oh yeah, he
Then
was good.
yeah, he was good for the first like 3 weeks, and then he sucked it up after
He's
that.
got to be hurt. He's
I
gotta be
think
hurt.
I think he will be fine. I don't think.
I think he will
I
too.
think he's got to develop a little
He
bit more.
was young, yeah. Then plus money play of the week: Minnesota money line versus Wisconsin. It was plus 120 when I saw it, or plus 110, something like that. Now it's all the way down to even, but still, nonetheless, plus money. Plus 100 versus Wisconsin. Minnesota's been playing some good ball recently, and I think Wisconsin's kind of trending downward. So yeah, I got them. Then Illinois -7 versus Northwestern. I don't know if you guys saw the Illinois versus Rutgers game last week. Completely pissed me off. I had Rutgers money line, and they were up 31-30, and then Illinois scored a 40-yard touchdown. Oh, we'll set the scene here, okay? It's 31-30. Illinois is somewhere in kind of field goal range, and they kick it, and it misses easily. But Rutgers called timeout to ice the kicker. They're like, oh, okay, this isn't getting anywhere close. Then Illinois runs a nice little like 10, 15-yard cross. Homeboy just takes it all the way to the house.
Oh my god!
And scores. Yeah, I had Rutgers money line. It was plus money, and it was perfect.
I was
And
lining
then-
up for you.
Then they sold. But yeah, I'm going to go to Illinois -7 versus Northwestern. Northwestern just isn't a good football team, and Illinois is coming off a pretty, I wouldn't say like decent win, but like it's a, like compared to like a heartbreaking loss, it's that for a win. I don't know what the word would be for that. Like it lifts their spirit that they found a way to win a game on the last play.
I got you.
So yeah, I got Illinois -7 versus Northwestern.
Okay. All right. Nate has Kansas -1.5 versus Baylor, fighting for bowl eligibility. Makes sense.
Fair.
TCU versus Cincinnati over 58.5 points. No defense in this game. He can't see plus money on this last one, so he wants to buy Texas Tech up. They're at -3, I believe, so probably buy it up to -4 versus West Virginia. So let's say Texas Tech -4 versus West
fair.
Virginia.
Yeah.
It should be right around even if he does that, and that'll be fine. So those are his three. Mine for the ACC, we're going to start with Georgia Tech at Georgia. The line is at like it was at -20. I think it's at like -19. Something like that. I think this is like a classic look ahead spot for Georgia. I think they know they will do enough to win regardless. And I think Georgia Tech, as far as like meaningful games, this is like their Super Bowl. Until they were already bowl eligible. Like this is their game. I think they had a look ahead game at NC State, and this is the one that they really want. I'm not going to do the cover for the full game, but I am going to do Georgia Tech first half plus 10.5 is what it was at. First half plus 10.5. Georgia's generally a second half team anyways, so I would anticipate it being close for at least half the game. Boston College, this is my plus money play. Boston College versus Pittsburgh. These are two teams heading in completely different directions. So I'm buying up Boston College's cover. I have Boston College minus 5.5. That is at even money. Boston College playing really good football. Pittsburgh is on their fourth string quarterback. That is generally not conducive to success. So we're going to go Boston College covering minus 5.5. The last one I'm going to do, I was going to do Florida and Florida State, but the line got a little too high for me just in case some craziness happens. I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to go to the NC State North Carolina game and I'm going to go over 55 points. That is at minus 120. I actually really like 55. I think this is like a 34-31 game. NC State fighting for bowl eligibility. North Carolina, this might be the last game with Mac Brown as the head coach. So a lot of like emotions going into this one. I think this will be hard fought. I think it'll be close. Neither team plays good defense. So I've got over 55, and those are my three.
I'm going to start with my plus money play of the week. Going back to the chat when we got the Missouri -3 comment. My plus money play of the week is actually going to be Arkansas money line.
Let's
Over
go.
Missouri.
Fraudulent.
Because Missouri is a fraudulent football team. One, they have nothing to play for. Brady Cook, he's already looking to the NFL draft. He's worried about that.
He might go
And
undrafted.
True. Arkansas is a frisky team. I know they've lost to some really good SEC teams, but they've also had some surprising wins, and against really good teams, they've kept it close. So Taylor Green is a frisky quarterback, frisky dual threat quarterback that likes to throw, likes to run it. He runs all over the place. He's been dog of the week a few times.
Yep.
But I just think Arkansas, this game means more to them than it does Missouri. I think they want this win like more so. I mean, they have nothing to really play for anyways, but to win this game at the end of the season gives them something almost to build on for next season, whereas Missouri is kind of looking at what a lot of people consider a rebuild year where there's nothing really going for them. A lot of their players are going to the draft like Burden and Cook might get a few draft looks, so we'll see. But it's at plus 130, so might as well take it for the value as the plus money play. We're going to move on to a very scary one, but I don't know why I'm going to take it, but I think they're going to come back and have a bounce back week. I think Alabama plays a home game against Auburn. The line is 11.5.
Okay.
I actually like them to win by 2 touchdowns. I know
Okay.
they lost. I know there's really no hope for them getting into the playoff anymore. The only hope that they would have is that they beat Auburn by 50 points. And I think Milroe also wants to leave college with a bang. If this is one of his last games, he's going to play in an Alabama uniform at their home stadium. I think the defense shows up a little bit better, seeing that Auburn doesn't really have a dual threat quarterback, so he can't run the football and he can't really throw the football. I know they managed to score against Texas A&M, but I think they have a bounce back week and they score a lot of points against Auburn. I don't see Auburn. I mean, they did their job already. They had a huge upset win against, Texas A&M. If this game were at Auburn, I would highly, highly take Auburn plus 11.5. But since this game's at Alabama, I don't see it going any other way than, Alabama.
The
2
voodoo
or 3
magic of
touchdowns.
Jordan Hare is
Yeah.
real. But
Yeah.
also
It's haunted.
Peyton Thorne can throw it a little bit to the
He
other
can.
team, but
He
he can
can.
throw it.
Yeah, no, it
He
leaves his
had the
hand and
Jake
goes somewhere else.
he had the Jake Garcia bug for a while, so we'll see. But Cam, funny you say that. I have it written down. Georgia Tech. Being the Georgia fan, we got to take this. I had Georgia Tech covering plus 19. I think I'm going to switch it because I like your plus 10.5 at halftime pick. I like that even better. I think we're on the same page. They covered last year. I think Georgia Tech's team is better this year, and Georgia's team is worse than they were last year. So
True.
I think it's being at Tech as well. So home game in
Yep.
Atlanta. I think you see a lot of Georgia Tech fans show up, which you don't usually get for a Georgia Tech matchup in the last 4 or 5 years. So
No, I think that one will be tighter than people are anticipating. I'll be watching. It's Friday game, right?
yep,
Yeah.
Black
Very
Friday,
exciting.
7:30.
Love that. Love that. Brandon, tell the people what they need to do next.
Yep. So we've had a pretty consistent, I'd say close to 10 viewers throughout both
We got to 10
platforms,
today.
YouTube.
Double
Yep.
We got to
digits?
10. We
Yeah,
got
Who's
to
we're
10.
at
laughing
10.
now?
So shout out everybody who was in here. Shout out all the people in the chat because I know Twitch and YouTube they set streamer goals for you to hit, and one of them is like maintain a certain amount of people in your chat. Make sure try to get people commenting normally in your chat. So shout out everybody who's been doing that today. You're helping us out. We love it. We're growing. We want you guys to be together as we grow and we can prosper. And I hope you guys all hit the like button, the follow button, the subscribe button, whatever button there is to hit. Hit it. Go put the picks in and make some money this weekend. We're all positive on the year. So
Yes,
we're
sir.
doing you guys a favor. Like we say all the time, we do the work so you don't have to. So be on the lookout. All social media platforms, TikTok, we're on Instagram. We obviously have the YouTube and the Twitch. We're going to be on Twitter soon. So if you're on Twitter, go ahead and start looking up Hold the Line sports betting Twitter. Lastly, make sure you guys all have a happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much food, but watch all the football you want to watch.
Eat
Make
too
sure you
much
bet on
food.
it because we
Yes.
will be betting on it. A lot of NFL. I mean, the NFL slate sucks. So let's just be honest. Lions covering, Green Bay's covering, whatever, whoever it is, they're covering. But thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for next week. We'll have a plethora of things to talk about after next week when we go and talk about conference championship week. And we are excited for it. So make sure you guys come back with us. We should be on our normal Wednesday schedule again next week, probably 9:00, 9:30ish. So make sure you ring the bell so you know when we go live.
Yes, sir. Me and Will will be back on Friday for NFL locks for the weekend. The whole gang will be back together next Wednesday for college football, where, as Brandon
Miss you,
said,
Nate.
yep, see him soon. We will be previewing the conference championships. That's it. Thanks. We will see you guys next time.
Peace.